Thank you, Karen. It's a great joy to be with you this evening. I call you my brothers and sisters in Christ. And as we look around tonight, we can say we are indeed brothers and sisters in Christ. And that faith in Jesus Christ, which is for us the joy and hope of our lives, is what also binds us together in unity tonight. And it's a wonderful thing, isn't it? To be here from many different churches, many different congregations, united firstly and foremostly because we believe in Jesus Christ and we desire to live the Christian life fully and completely. And the second thing is, because of this faith and because of the revelation of the truth and plan and purpose of God for human life, we stand for marriage. We stand for God's understanding and purpose for marriage in human life. And tonight, this gathering is significant because, as was mentioned, the High Court today ruled that a postal vote on the definition of marriage would proceed in Australia. So now we have this time to invite all Australians to stand up for God's plan for marriage and for family. I believe we're at a critical moment in our history as a nation because our society, as we've noticed over the last 50 years, has gone through extraordinary change, particularly in areas related to sexuality, to gender, to marriage and to family. There's been this extraordinary change and we've somehow been swept along and maybe in many ways we've found ourselves a little powerless against all these changes that have been taking place around us, concerned that these are not good for family, for the living of human life. The forces of society in our society are really seeking to change the way that sexuality is understood and lived, the way that marriage is meant to be understood and lived, the way the family is meant to be understood and lived. We know too that our Christian understanding has been slowly eroded and in many ways quite strongly rejected in the society around us. So there's a campaign that is being waged and has been waged for some time with great determination and purpose to change the legal definition of marriage. Not to change marriage, because we all know what marriage is, but simply to change in our society the legal definition of marriage. What humanity has understood for millennia is now being called into question at this moment in history. Who could imagine 10 years ago that we would be confronting this particular question, and indeed there would be so many people who would believe that it's time that marriage had been changed? If we cannot imagine how this change has suddenly come upon us, what's going to happen in 10 years' time? What's going to happen in 5 years' time? What's going to happen in 2 years' time? As these changes are building in momentum, where are we going? What future awaits us down the track? We have to ask ourselves, what is this effort to change the legal definition of marriage going to actually mean for our society? We have to understand too that this is not just one isolated issue. It's not just one particular isolated decision. This is part of a whole program, part of a whole movement, which is actually going to radically change the nature of our society and in particular the nature of human relationships within our society. So we now have an opportunity. We have a great opportunity to actually say that we believe that the legal definition of marriage does not need to be changed. We want to say, don't change marriage, because marriage is good. Marriage is beautiful. Marriage is God's great plan for the way in which human life is intended to be lived on this earth. Because we know that God, in the creation of humanity, created us in a wise and provident manner. We know that man and woman were created precisely for each other, precisely for marriage, that the two would in fact become one, and there would be a complementarity of man and woman that would bring a profound new reality that is marriage. And we know that it is a father and the mother together, each bringing their complementary gifts that provide the best recipe for the raising of a child. And we know that each individual child needs to know the full identity of their father and their mother, because this is God's good plan. This is God's good plan. And I've often said to couples when I prepare them for marriage, the best results, follow the Maker's instructions. Follow the Maker's instructions. Marriage is the God-given natural reality. It's not the creation of societies or governments. Indeed, governments really have never sought to actually create the meaning of marriage, but simply to surround the institution of marriage with protective laws and customs that are designed for the good of marriage, because they know the good of marriage is the good of society. And any attempt to legislate to change our society's understanding of marriage is not just opposed to our Christian faith, but it compromises the true meaning of human life, the true meaning of the human person. It compromises and denies the truth about the biological complementarity of male and female, which provides the only true way to generate and nurture new life. Marriage is and always will be what it was in the beginning. And if the Marriage Act is changed, we will witness the imposition of a false understanding of human sexuality, particularly on our children. This is already happening through the Safe Schools program, as many of you would be aware. Children are being targeted by radical LGBTIQ community programs, often deliberately without the knowledge or consent of their parents. And if the definition of marriage is changed, these efforts will move to a whole new level. And indeed, our Christian schools will particularly come under extreme pressure to actually introduce these programs, or perhaps even lose their funding. We will all experience the pressure to comply. What is particularly at risk is the fundamental human right of freedom of religion, a right which we've always presumed we've had, and indeed we have had and enjoyed here in Australia. But slowly, step by step, our freedom of religion is being taken away from us. As was mentioned, the Anti-Discrimination Commissioner here in Tasmania considered that my action of simply promoting standard Christian belief about the nature of marriage was possibly in breach of the law. And I was called to answer before the Commission. And that occurred even before the law was changed. And we're already experiencing direct attacks on people who hold the traditional understanding of marriage. What will it be like when the law is changed? And there is clear evidence already that anyone who publicly stands for traditional marriage will be targeted, as we saw in the case of the brave women who featured in the recent Coalition for Marriage advertisement. People are already fearful of their jobs. They're frightened to say anything, even in the workplace, among their friends and colleagues. We find ourselves, don't we, being silenced by threat and intimidation. How much worse will all this become if the law is changed? Now, Christianity has provided a vital role in the development of Western civilization. And so many of the freedoms we enjoy and the quality of life we're able to enjoy, the laws that are there to protect us and watch over us, all these things have come out of our Christian tradition. And yet now, this Christian tradition is being unpicked. If the legal definition of marriage is changed, Christians will have little or no protection as we go forward. Already voices are saying that any exemptions that may be granted when and if the law is changed will be later removed. Christians will have no certain or fixed protection under the law, and the consequences for the Christian community will be significant and widespread. Let us not be in any doubt that there is a powerful movement afoot to completely rewrite the meaning of sexuality, gender, marriage and family. And this is becoming more and more evident as the public debate has unfolded. We instinctively know that this will be to the grave detriment of individuals, of families, and of our society. It's a bold and dangerous experiment which will do immense harm. So we cannot be silent and we cannot be coward. And we will speak up and we will vote. Not just because this is what we believe, but we will speak up and we will vote and we will call and invite all our Australian citizens to vote no in this plebiscite for the future of the nation that we love, for the soul of our beloved nation, Australia. Thank you.